Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry about my lack of videos the last couple of weeks. I've been away and I just got back a couple days ago. So I'm ready to get back into a routine with the videos. So apologize, but I'm back, so let's just get back into it. So it is July 12th, 2017, and there's some big news on the interwebs. DevBootcamp shut down today, or at least they announced their shutdown. I think they're actually going to shut their doors on December of this year, and it's pretty big because it's the first sign of weakness in the bootcamp industry, right? It's the first major bootcamp in the United States that is actually closing their doors and shutting down for business, and showing some real weakness in the bootcamp industry. Now, I don't know if it's systemic in the industry or if it's just that bootcamp was maybe mismanaged or whatever, but it's a surprising development either way. So which sort of brings me to the main lesson of this entire situation, which is, as I see it, Dev Bootcamp didn't really adjust to the new technological landscape and the economic landscape as well. And the only thing that you can count on in this world, which I continually have to relearn, is change. You can only count on change, and obviously that goes double for technology, probably more than double, but change is the only thing that you can really count on. And if you're not able to adapt to change, then you're gonna fail like Dev Bootcamp. So, why am I saying this? So, Dev Bootcamp, to the very last day, was still teaching Ruby on Rails, jQuery as like the staple of their curriculum. Like that was the main thing. I talked to one of their students. He came to one of my demos about a month ago, and I just asked him what they learned, and I said, did you learn any React Redux? And they spent like a day on React and like just some basic Redux concepts for 1 or 2 days, and that's it. That is not enough to learn React. You can't honestly say you learned React Redux, right? So what happened? Dev Bootcamp couldn't hire bona fide React Redux devs, someone like myself, to teach a full in-depth course on React Redux, with Node on the back end, server-side rendering, all that nonsense, and so they just kept on doing what they were doing, right? And they didn't adapt, they didn't adjust, and now they failed. It's just the same old story. There's nothing really new about this. It's just that it's in my industry. It's in the bootcamp industry. So, what does this mean for you? Ostensibly, you're an aspiring developer. It's why else would you even watch my videos at all? Because this is all beginner programming stuff. Um, how do you absorb this information to your benefit? All right, what does this mean for you? Like, okay, so Dev Bootcamp didn't adjust. Fine, whatever. What the hell should I do about this? So, one of the key staples of sort of all my messages, my videos, my website, my courses, is to figure out where things are going, and then position yourself for that. Right? Figure out where things are going, and then position yourself for that. So if you're one of the students who went to Dev Bootcamp because you thought Ruby on Rails and jQuery and even Angular 1 was like the way to go, well then, you get what you deserve. You didn't prepare, and that's on you, right? And if you're in a position where you really think that technologies is a static thing, that you just learn the same thing that you learned 10 years ago and you should be good to go, well then you got a whole different problem you got to work out, to be honest. Okay, going back to my original point, so then what should you do? Well, let's not focus on what you shouldn't do. Let's focus on what you should do, right? So things are always in flux, always. So, I started programming 7 years ago, 2010, almost exactly, summer 2010. And at the time, I was teaching myself iOS because it was pretty evident that that's where things are going. If I do that today, wouldn't necessarily be a bad move, but it will be a much harder trajectory to get to where I want to go, right? Why did I pick iOS? Because I knew it was cutting edge. It was rapidly gaining market share. Like it was really starting to pick up some steam. Especially by 2010, almost everyone had an iPhone, at least where I was living. And all this investment dollars are flowing into it. And the most important thing is because it was new, it's impossible for there to be a robust labor market around that system, right? Because it's new. Like, it's literally 2 years old. Like, you can't have that many. You cannot have a 5-year expert in iOS in 2010. It's literally impossible unless you worked at Apple, right? So the labor supply, the supply of labor in that ecosystem was to my advantage, such that I can break in a relatively short period of time. And for me, that was about 1.5 years, right? So my calculus proved correct. So basically, I moved to the city in 2012, and I was able to get iOS gigs simply because I could start Xcode and place some buttons on the screen and make them actually do stuff, right? Like, so that played to my advantage, and that gave me an entry point into this game, which I haven't left since, right? So from there, it's on me to keep on getting better, learning new things, keep on developing my skill set, and doing what I tell people to do. Keep moving with the change, right? Keep adapting to change. And so that's what I did. So now, like, iOS is like the 5th thing I do. I do backend, I do Node, Mongo, Postgres, whatever, and all of that good stuff. So my point is, if you're looking into programming today, if you're less than a year in, and you're trying to figure out, like, I don't know, how do I even begin? Ask yourself, where are things going? Where do I have the most reasonable entry point, and then what do I have to do to get there? How do I get in that entry point? All right. So if I were 7 years younger and I'm looking at programming, I hate my job as a teacher, and I'm done teaching kids quadratic equations, and I want to go into programming, but it's 2017 now. All right. So what do? I look at I start researching the interwebs. I figure out, like, where all the smart people are reading their shit, and I do mean the smart people. Don't look at just the regular CNET, TechCrunch. That's not where the smart people are getting their information. You got to look at, like, the Hacker News. Like, that's where all the cutting edge stuff is happening. The people in the know. Okay. It's not just the first thing that comes up on Google. Like, even like, I don't know about Reddit startups. It's kind of shaky, but like the programming subs on Reddit, web dev is decent. Or even just programming, R program. So here, like Reddit. A lot of stuff here, and it's good to know, like, there's a lot of stuff here that a beginner just wouldn't understand, but you come back every day, see what keeps on popping up, see what things come up again and again and again. You start to get a good sense of where the community is sort of focusing their energy, right? And then look at, like, Google's acquisitions. So Google acquired an AI, artificial intelligence company last week, or I think yesterday, which should tell you something. That should tell you that Google is focusing a lot of their energy on artificial intelligence, right? AI. I think Facebook did, a virtual or an augmented reality acquisition like a couple of weeks ago. Where am I getting all this information? Hacker News. You go to Hacker News, and you kind of figure out this is where it's all going. Right? This is these are precursors of things to come, and you want to focus your energy on that. So, like, in 2009, 2010, 2011, somewhere around there, like a lot of those acquisitions were like cloud-based companies like Heroku, like Parse, which ironically they shut down, but Firebase was 2014. Like, all those cloud-based companies were being swallowed up, and like that's a big thing to get into. Cloud technology, DevOps, AWS, things like that. I'm not saying that's not a good thing now. It's always a good thing to get into, but what I'm trying to say is figure out where the market is still developing, and where by the time you are anywhere near good, that market will be mature. Basically, you will grow with the market such that by the time you're anywhere near good, figure 2 or 3 years, that market will be like just now maturing and ready to hire you at 150K or 170K or whatever it is, because the labor supply is still tight. So as I perceive it right now, as I observe right now, anything with artificial intelligence is definitely hotcakes right now. AR, VR, crazy hot right now. So you want to start learning some of these AR and VR kits that are coming out, like Unity 3D. Now would be a great time to get into Unity 3D, right? That's a very hard thing to learn anyway. It's just a hard thing to get good at. And then it's going to be in about 2 years, maybe even less because things move fast. That skill is going to be so high in demand that just by being able to do like a basic Unity 3D project, you will be high in demand, just like I was 5 years ago, because I could create a hello world in iOS. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but my competition wasn't as tough as it would be today, right? But the demand was still there. It's like, it's like being the only guy on an island full of women, right? that would be nice, but it's a similar dynamic. Right? You have to understand, but things change fast, so you really have to figure out where things are going. I know I keep on saying that, so I don't want to keep repeating myself, but that's the main message. And I think, to be honest, DevBootcamp never really did that. I think a lot of that was just sort of the economic forces, the exigencies of the economic pressures they had to operate under, right? So like, obviously they're not stupid people. I'm sure, I actually know one of the guys who worked there, and I'm sure they were looking for React Redux developers to teach their courses, but that shit's expensive. You're going to pay me to teach React Redux, fine, but you're going to pay me a lot of money because I'm giving up contract work to do so, right? So I'm sure they heard that over and over again, and they're like, well, we just got to stick with Ruby on Rails then, right? That's the reality of the marketplace. So maybe they just couldn't adjust. And then, it leads to a perpetual cycle of mediocrity. So what happened next? They found students who didn't know any better, so they didn't do their research. They thought like Ruby on Rails and jQuery were the cutting edge. That's yesterday's news, right? And so, they were getting sort of the weaker students, which led to weaker numbers in the marketplace, employment numbers, and so forth and so on. It's how a shitty college is created, and that's essentially what happened. But DevBootcamp is not a college. They had to turn a profit, and I guess they failed to do so. And Kaplan said, fuck it, enough is enough. We're not going to keep on carrying this loss. So that's the end of that. However, Kaplan also bought a data science company called Metis just after DevBootcamp, and that's going quite well, as far as I understand. I might be wrong. I thought DevBootcamp was going well too, but Metis is a totally different dynamic. They have very smart people. Their employment numbers are great. They're in a cutting edge industry, right? They're in an industry right now. Data science is another one. It's an industry that's it's experiencing extraordinary growth, right? So, because all these companies have all this data that they don't know what to do with, but they know there's value there, right? That's where a data scientist comes in, and I put up some data science videos with a friend of mine, Justin, a couple months back, and they got very little traction. They didn't really do very well from view numbers, which is why I said, Justin, don't worry about it, thanks, but I'm going to stick with the web stuff. But I put those up for a reason because, I mean, in a couple years, in 12 to 18 months, 24 months, if you start learning data science now and you got good at that, in 12 months, you'll be in a great position in New York City, San Francisco, any of the tech centers. But it's hard to even know that's coming. There are still people, there's a lot of people who don't even know what data science is. Right? What the hell is data science? What's natural language processing? What's NumPy and pandas? Like what? Right? But these things are coming. Right? Remember, 18 months ago, I didn't really know what React was. That's the truth. And I just kept on seeing it over and over and over again on Hacker News, on Reddit, on all the places where the smart people go. And I said, all right, well, clearly this is the direction I need to move in. Put the Angular away and focus on React, and that's it. That would be a good decision in data science right now. Another thing that you might want to consider is positioning yourself as a web developer, for data science companies or augmented reality, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, things like that. because even though these companies aren't necessarily web development companies, they're going to need a web presence. They're going to need APIs. They're going to need a website. They're going to need databases and things like that. And a lot of these, like AR, VR guys, and even like IoT guys, like they don't really care about web development as much. That's not where they focus their energy. And I can personally attest to that for data science. I know a handful of data scientists, and most of them just don't do web dev. I can only think of one that does, and he does it exquisitely well. But there's everyone else. Just web dev is not part of their ecosystem. So I'm talking to like a data scientist last week. One of the smartest people I know. He's not a dummy. He's a very smart person. And I had to explain things like, what was he asking me? He was asking me like why websites need HTTPS, like how, like what is SSL encryption, things like that. And like if you're a web developer, you're thinking like, these are the questions you're asking me? No, but this guy is an extremely smart person. So he was asking me these questions because he still needed web knowledge, right? Because you can't avoid the web. You just can't avoid the web. It's everywhere. So even though his skill was in data science, I'm sure he could be an excellent web developer if he wanted to be. It's just not there. So there are hordes of people like this who could use that help, right? So that's another good thing to sort of look into as to how can I exploit this inefficiency? Where can I get my work my angle in where can I deliver value, to put it in more palatable terms? Where can I deliver value in this ecosystem, and then figure that out, or just go right to it and become a data scientist. That's another way. You just start doing data science. Obviously, that's not web dev, so you wouldn't even be on my channel. But again, the point is to try to figure out where things are going and position yourself for 2 years from now, maybe 12 months from now, but not now. And even like, I've sort of been harping on the React bandwagon for a while, but we're pretty much late on that. Like if you start React, that market is maturing now. Things are shaking out now. That the React marketplace, it has hit mainstream, right? It has reached the inflection point where it's no longer like the cool new thing. That's gone. It is now the thing. Right? This is just how it's done now. So if you're thinking like, oh, this cool thing React, like I should really get on this, you're already kind of late now. Not that you shouldn't do it. Don't get the wrong message. You should still do it if you want to do web dev. Basically, you don't have a choice anyway. But you're no longer ahead of the curve. You missed that boat maybe 9-10 months ago. So but there's always something else. There's always something else, right? So if I were starting out today, let's say I'm starting out today, I don't know any programming, literally never opened up Sublime, I don't know what a terminal is, all that crap. After I sort of do my research, I would probably focus my personal energy on IoT and Raspberry Pi and Arduino, and how to set up, how to create projects using those kits, especially Raspberry Pi, but that's just me. Because right now it's at that point where it's not quite mainstream, but companies are getting wise to IoT. Companies are getting sort of hip to the internet being everywhere, like in your car, on your TV, your refrigerator, your watch, whatever. And that's going to depend heavily. That is IoT. That's going to depend on IoT knowledge. So it's definitely another good place to look is Kickstarter, and seeing what projects are being put up in the tech side, and seeing what kind of things are being worked on, because that's a good sort of harbinger of where things are going. Excuse me. Anyway, so yeah, going back to DevBootcamp, I'm not like happy they fail. I don't really care, to be honest. They don't affect me. But the lesson again is to understand things are always in flux. Things are always moving in certain directions, and the onus is on you. You have to figure out and place your bet. And it's not like it's not like a bet, like a random bet, like roulette table or craps. You're not rolling dice, but make an educated bet. Like when I taught myself iOS, I was making an educated bet. All right, keep in mind this is 2010, so I also could have taught myself Android, and that was at that point it was a legitimate decision to make. Should I do Android or iOS? And I had to gamble. I had to bet, and I made my decision based on a series of factors that I considered reasonable, right? And it worked out fine. So that environment, that sort of decision-making process never changes, right? Understand that that's just life. That's what we live in, right? So today, summer 2017, a good bet is IoT. That's not quite as new as some of the more cutting-edge stuff, but I think that has a very bright future. And then AR, VR, that's really hot right now, to the point where you're getting these companies like Google swallowing up these companies just based on acqui-hire. They're just hiring the talent. They're just buying the talent, right? They're not even necessarily buying. Very often you'll see, if you see a company like Google or Amazon buy up a small like a AR VR shop and basically shut down their product line, and that's it. That's an acqui-hire. They bought the company just for the talent, and then they're going to absorb them into their AR VR divisions. So, which should tell you where they're investing all their energy and literally investing their money. So, so yeah, that's the main thing I get from this Dev Bootcamp situation. Hope you were able to get something out of it yourself. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be back posting more videos this week. Let me know if you have any requests for topics.